Have you recently found yourself gasping for air after climbing just a few stairs? Or maybe walking across the room leaves you feeling like you've just run a mile? If you're over 60 and this is happening more often than not, it might be easy to chalk it up to age, weight, or general tiredness. But what if it's something far more serious? Frequent shortness of breath after 60 is not just a harmless sign of aging. It could be your body's way of sounding the alarm about a potentially life-threatening lung disease, and ignoring it could delay treatment that might protect your independence, your comfort, and even your life. Around the world, millions of seniors experience this symptom every day and assume it's normal. But according to the Global Initiative for Chronic Obstructive Lung Disease, shortness of breath, especially when it becomes persistent, may be one of the earliest and most telling symptoms of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD is a progressive illness, meaning it tends to get worse over time. It includes conditions like chronic bronchitis and emphysema, which cause inflammation and damage to the lungs, reducing their ability to function effectively. What's especially alarming is that many older adults are living with COPD without even knowing it. The World Health Organization estimates that over 3 million people die each year due to COPD, making it the third leading cause of death worldwide. Yet early diagnosis and proper treatment can make a huge difference in quality of life. This is why it's critical to pay attention to the signals your body is giving you, especially if you're having trouble breathing during simple daily tasks. A compelling example of this comes from a 68-year-old woman in Melbourne, Australia, named Margaret. She had always been active, walking her dog daily and gardening in her backyard. But over time, she started noticing she was out of breath halfway through her morning walks. Initially, she blamed it on the hot weather or being a little out of shape. But when she began waking up in the middle of the night, gasping for air, she decided to visit her doctor. After a series of tests, she was diagnosed with moderate COPD, thanks to early intervention, including pulmonary rehabilitation and medications. Margaret was able to regain much of her stamina and avoid hospitalization. Her story is a powerful reminder of what can happen when symptoms aren't ignored. COPD is not the only lung condition that can cause shortness of breath in seniors. Interstitial lung disease, pulmonary fibrosis, heart failure, or even undiagnosed asthma can present similarly. That's why a thorough evaluation is so important. Medical professionals typically use a combination of physical examinations, chest x-rays, CT scans, and a breathing test known as spirometry to measure how well your lungs are functioning. Catching these conditions early can open the door to treatment options that slow progression, relieve symptoms, and help people stay active and independent longer. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic have found that one of the biggest obstacles to proper diagnosis in older adults is the normalization of symptoms. People think getting out of breath is just a part of getting older, and as a result, they don't bring it up during checkups. But aging alone doesn't cause persistent shortness of breath. In fact, many people in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s live without ever experiencing it unless there's an underlying issue. Scientists have also found strong links between environmental exposure and the development of lung diseases in older adults. Long-term exposure to air pollution, cigarette smoke, even secondhand smoke, and certain workplace chemicals can silently damage lung tissue over the years. This means even those who quit smoking decades ago or never smoked at all are still at risk. That risk increases when factors like a weak immune system, recurrent chest infections, or poor indoor air quality are added to the mix. Prevention and management, however, are entirely possible. Medical studies show that regular physical activity, breathing exercises, maintaining a healthy diet, and avoiding pollutants can significantly improve lung capacity and reduce symptoms. In some cases, supplemental oxygen or medications such as bronchodilators can help make daily life more manageable. In Germany, a recent public health campaign urged people over 60 to undergo annual lung screenings if they have any history of smoking, asthma, or unexplained fatigue. The results were promising. Many early-stage lung conditions were caught in time for effective intervention. This kind of initiative is slowly spreading to other countries as doctors recognize the value of proactive healthcare in an aging population. The emotional toll of untreated lung disease is often overlooked. Many seniors with chronic breathlessness begin to withdraw from social activities and feel anxious or even depressed due to the physical discomfort and fear of losing their independence. Addressing this early not only improves physical health, but also restores confidence and social connection, both of which are essential for emotional well-being in later years. Breath is life. It's something we take for granted until it's no longer easy. That's why it's so important not to ignore the signals. If you or someone you love is experiencing frequent shortness of breath after the age of 60, it's worth taking seriously. The sooner it's addressed, the better the chances of managing it effectively and enjoying the years ahead with vitality, dignity, and peace of mind. Shortness of breath is something most people experience once in a while after intense physical activity, during extreme heat, or when feeling anxious, but when it starts happening more frequently, especially after the age of 60, and during simple, everyday tasks like walking, talking, or even resting, it could be a sign of something far more serious than aging. Many older adults assume that being winded more easily is just a normal part of growing older, but medical experts strongly warn against this assumption. Frequent breathlessness might be an early symptom of a progressive and potentially life-threatening condition known as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, as well as other underlying lung disorders that silently take hold as we age. COPD is often called a silent disease because of the way it creeps up gradually. At first, it might feel like a little extra puffing after walking upstairs or doing housework, but over time the lungs become more and more compromised, making it difficult to breathe even while sitting still. COPD encompasses chronic bronchitis and emphysema, two conditions that damage the airways and the tiny air sacs in the lungs. This damage restricts airflow, traps air in the lungs, and prevents the body from getting enough oxygen. The result is a constant feeling of breathlessness that worsens over time. Unfortunately, many people do not realize they have COPD until a serious flare-up lands them in the hospital. According to the American Lung Association, an estimated 16 million people in the United States have been diagnosed with COPD, but millions more likely have it and are unaware. In countries like Canada, Germany, and the United Kingdom, similar patterns have been observed. One of the most concerning aspects of this illness is that it is frequently underdiagnosed in seniors. This happens in part because shortness of breath is often attributed to aging, weight gain, or lack of exercise rather than a medical issue needing attention. Take the story of Jean-Paul, a 72-year-old retired teacher living in Lyon, France. For years he struggled with a dry cough and occasional breathlessness, but he never thought much of it. He led a quiet life and hadn't smoked since his 30s. It wasn't until he fainted after a short walk to the local bakery that he was rushed to the hospital. There, doctors discovered he had advanced COPD. Looking back, he wished he had spoken up about his symptoms earlier. After months of rehabilitation and the use of inhalers, Jean-Paul regained much of his mobility, but the damage to his lungs was permanent. His experience is a poignant reminder of how easily symptoms can be dismissed and how crucial early diagnosis can be. Beyond COPD, other serious lung diseases can also be responsible for shortness of breath in older adults. Pulmonary fibrosis, interstitial lung disease, congestive heart failure, or even undiagnosed asthma can mimic similar symptoms. These conditions often coexist, making it even harder to identify the exact cause without proper medical evaluation. Experts emphasize the need for diagnostic tools such as pulmonary function tests, CT scans, and echocardiograms in identifying the true root of breathlessness. Catching these issues early can lead to interventions that slow disease progression, improve lung function, and greatly enhance quality of life. Environmental factors play a major role as well. Long-term exposure to cigarette smoke, both first-hand and second-hand air pollution, occupational dust, or indoor cooking fumes can all contribute to declining lung health in the elderly. While smoking remains the #1 risk factor for COPD, it's not the only one. In fact, a significant number of people diagnosed with COPD never smoked a day in their lives. Instead, their lung health deteriorated from years of inhaling pollutants or being exposed to toxic environments without proper protection. For seniors, whose immune systems are already less resilient, these environmental exposures can cause faster and more irreversible damage. In Italy, a recent health study conducted in Milan showed a sharp increase in COPD diagnoses among older adults who lived near high-traffic urban areas. These findings echo those from cities across the globe, where the link between air quality and respiratory illness has become undeniable. As more research emerges, the importance of clean air, protective equipment during household or outdoor activities, and maintaining well-ventilated living spaces is being strongly emphasized by public health officials. Physical inactivity can also worsen respiratory symptoms. Lungs, like muscles, need to be exercised to maintain their strength. Seniors who become less active due to fatigue or fear of breathlessness often enter a downward spiral where lung capacity diminishes further due to lack of use. Pulmonary rehabilitation programs, which combine supervised exercise with education and breathing techniques, have been shown to improve symptoms significantly. Such programs are especially beneficial for older adults, giving them tools to manage their condition and reduce hospitalizations. But shortness of breath affects more than just the body, it impacts the mind and emotions too. Many seniors who suffer from breathlessness begin to withdraw from social situations, avoid physical contact with friends and family, and develop anxiety or even depression. The psychological toll can be just as devastating as the physical symptoms, especially when left untreated. Doctors now encourage a more holistic approach to lung health in seniors, addressing not just the medical condition but the emotional and social support that patients need to maintain their dignity and joy in life. Shortness of breath should never be ignored, especially in people over 60, even if it starts off as something minor. It can signal the early stages of a disease that, if caught early, can be managed effectively. Seniors are often far more resilient than they are given credit for, but resilience shouldn't mean suffering in silence. Listening to the body, speaking up about changes, and seeking answers from qualified medical professionals can make the difference between living a limited life and living one filled with energy, comfort, and connection. Are you or someone you love finding it harder to catch your breath lately, especially after doing something as simple as walking across a room or bending down to tie your shoes? If you're over 60 and this is becoming a common experience, it's something that should never be ignored. It might seem harmless at first, just a sign of getting older or being out of shape, but in reality, frequent shortness of breath could be pointing to a serious lung condition that needs immediate attention. One such condition is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COP, dire progressive illness that slowly limits airflow and makes it harder for your lungs to function. What makes it especially dangerous is how quietly it starts, often mistaken for normal aging, and how many people live with it without knowing until it's too advanced. Welcome to Elderly Health Path, where we bring you trustworthy health information, especially curated for people in their golden years. If you're finding value in these discussions, please consider subscribing to our channel. It helps us reach more people and continue producing content that truly matters for the well-being of older adults. Now, let's get back to what your body may be trying to tell you. The lungs are incredibly complex organs. Over time, due to environmental exposure, underlying health issues, or past habits like smoking, they can become damaged. In the case of COPD, two major problems develop: chronic bronchitis, which causes inflammation and mucus buildup in the airways, and emphysema, which destroys the tiny air sacs in the lungs. Both conditions make it harder for oxygen to enter the bloodstream, and harder for carbon dioxide to leave the body. You might not feel it at first. Maybe you're just winded more often. But over months or years, those mild symptoms can turn into major limitations: constant coughing, wheezing, chest tightness, and a life lived in fear of your next breath. There's an emotional side to this too. Many people with early-stage lung disease suffer silently, not wanting to worry their families or feel embarrassed. This was the case with Harold, a 69-year-old man from Manchester, UK, who used to love fishing with his grandkids. He started avoiding trips to the lake because walking the small hill to the shore left him gasping for air. His daughter noticed he was skipping outings more frequently and encouraged him to see a doctor. Tests confirmed he had moderate COPD. With the right medication and breathing therapy, he didn't just improve, he got back to the lakeside with his grandkids. His story isn't rare, but it is often delayed by fear or shame. A study published by the British Thoracic Society revealed that almost 40% of COPD cases in the UK remain undiagnosed until they reach a severe stage. That's nearly half of the people suffering from a preventable or manageable illness living with unnecessary discomfort in Canada and Germany. Public health officials have issued alerts for older adults to watch for persistent breathlessness as a sign of not just COPD, but also interstitial lung disease, asthma, or even early heart failure, conditions that often mimic each other and require proper diagnosis. Even those who never smoked can develop lung diseases. Long-term exposure to pollution, chemicals, dust, and even indoor cooking smoke has been found to cause chronic lung damage over time. In Italy, researchers in Milan found a significant number of women in their 70s diagnosed with lung scarring, despite having no history of smoking. Many had cooked on wood or coal stoves for decades. Their breathlessness was initially dismissed as age-related tiredness until advanced scans revealed the true issue. One of the reasons breathlessness is so dangerous is because it slowly steals your quality of life. You start walking less, socializing less, resting more. Eventually, your lungs grow weaker from disuse, and even small tasks like brushing your teeth can leave you winded. This doesn't just affect the lungs, it affects mental health, leading to isolation, anxiety, and depression. That's why doctors now emphasize early screening for seniors experiencing any unexplained respiratory changes. Tools like spirometry, which measures lung function, CT scans, and even simple oxygen saturation readings can help detect problems before they become emergencies. And the good news: you don't have to suffer alone. There are ways to slow the progression of lung disease, and in many cases, reclaim your life. Pulmonary rehabilitation, tailored exercise routines, nutritional support, and medications like bronchodilators can improve breathing and restore daily function. Some people even qualify for oxygen therapy or surgical treatments, depending on the cause and stage of their condition. In Australia, community programs are helping seniors understand how to manage symptoms through breathing techniques and activity pacing. They also teach environmental control, like avoiding areas with high pollution or allergens, and stress reduction strategies that help improve breathing comfort. Every breath you take is precious. If you've noticed yourself struggling to breathe more than usual, especially if you're over 60, don't brush it off. What seems like a minor inconvenience could be an early warning of something serious. Listen to your body. Reach out to your doctor. Ask questions. Early intervention could change your life, or even save it. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Health Path. We're here to walk this journey with you, step by step, breath by breath, bringing hope, knowledge, and real stories that can inspire and inform. Thank you for watching, and take care of your health. It's your most valuable gift.